We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Amud Beis in Meseches Avodah Zara. This is Avodah Zarah Daf 30b. The Gemara continues a statement from Rava. Rava said if you have wine that's turning to vinegar, so for the first 3 days there is a concern of giloi. There is also a concern that it will be poured as a libation for Avodah Zara. But mikan va'elach, but from after that it's already spoiling enough that ein bo misham giloi. There's no concern of giloi ve'ein bo misham yayin nesach, and it's not a concern of yayin nesach. V'nahardoi amri, and in Nahardoi they say afilu lebasar t'lasa yoma, even after 3 days, chashin and misham giloi, there is a concern of giloi. My time, and what's the reason? Zimnin mikri shasi, because sometimes it does happen that the snakes drink from it. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Yayin Toses, if you have Yayin Toses, Rashi explains, Yayin Toses is Yayin Chodosh Migito, that is new wine that comes straight from the wine press, Atshu Machmitz Lios Yayin, before it actually ferments and turns into wine, Kari Le Toses, it's called Toses, that's when it's in the fermenting process. So Yayin Toses, Ein Bo Misham Giloi, there's no concern of Giloi. In that case, the snakes will not drink from it. V'kama Tesisas, and how much is considered that it's fermenting, that we're going to say that the snakes keep away and there's no concern of giloi, of leaving it uncovered. Gimel yomim, it is 3 days. And the Brisa continues, Hashechlayim, if it's mixed with cress, it means to say you have wine or water mixed with cress, Ein bohem misham giloi, then there is no concern of giloi. Uvnei gola, but those in the exile, Nagu behen isser, they do conduct themselves as if it's prohibited. V'lo amr nela deles buchala, now that's only true if there's no vinegar. Avol is buchala, but if there's vinegar, so then migri buhu, so then the vinegar actually repels the snakes and there is no concern. And the Brisa continues, Kusach Habavli, the Babylonian Kusach, Ein bo misham giloi, there's no concern of giloi over there. Uvnei gola nohagu bo iser, but the people of the exile, they conduct themselves that it is usher, and they are strict. And Rashi explains, Kusach Habavli chazak hu kechometz. Kusach Habavli, it was like a dairy mixture that's very strong, like vinegar. Can mefarish be elu ovrin, as is explained in elu ovrin, the yahavu be ifushe pas v'nis yuve dechelba. They would put in their moldy bread, and they would put in their nisyobe dechelba, which is whey. And again, that was strong enough that the snakes would keep away. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi says, is bein nikure, if we see that there are indentations, so then chashin, and then we are concerned, Rashi explains, nikure kamin mokom neshichas hanochash. If you look at it and you see that it looks like a snake bit it, so then you have to be concerned and you have to be strict. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi says, Amar Shmuel, that Shmuel says, Mei tiftif, if it's dripping, ein bo misham giloi, then there's no concern of giloi. Rashi explains, tiftif, klisha tachas chavis, they would put a vessel under the barrel, shemekabel yayin hanotif, and it would receive the dripping wine, so if it drips, then what ends up happening is that the snake is afraid. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi says, Vudavid tif lahade tiftif, it has to be one drop right after the other. Rashi explains, tif lahade tiftif, shemetaftef tadir, it's constantly dripping, vatipim, rodfos azu, it's like the drops are chasing one another, utkufos, they're strong, vahanacha shomei oboreach. So then again, the snake hears, and the snake runs away. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Chia bar Ashi, Amar Shmuel, Rav Chia bar Ashi says that Shmuel says, Pita eina, the crevice of a fig, ein bo misham giloi, it's not a concern of giloi, of being uncovered. Rashi explains, Pita eina kashatol shenosa, when they would take the fig off the tree, nasa lo pekotzer, there would be like a little opening, but makamuksa, at that point where you're detaching it from the tree, so maybe you say there's a little opening over there, maybe we should be concerned that into there is some of the venom of a snake, so that's not a concern. And the Gemara says, come on, who does that follow? Ki haitana detanya, it follows the Tana in the following brisa. Rabbi Eliezer says, Ochel adam anavim utainim belayla, a person can eat grapes and figs at night, ve'eno choshesh, and he doesn't have to be concerned. Mishum shenamar, because it says in the pasuk, Shomer Pesayim Hashem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu watches over those who are unaware, and so that's the idea over here as well. You can conduct yourself in the normal fashion and assume that you will be protected. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Safra Mishum Rabbi Yoshua de Roma, Rav Safra says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua of Rome, Shlosha mine eres hein, there are 3 kinds of eres, 3 kinds of venom of a snake. Shel bocher, if it's of a young snake, shokea, that kind of venom sinks in liquid. Shel beinoni, if it's a medium-aged snake, mefafea, so then it kind of floats in the middle, it sort of sinks but doesn't sink all the way. V'shel zaken, and of an older snake, tzaf, that kind of venom floats. The Gemara says, Lememra dekama dekoshish kochish chayli, does that mean to say that the older the snake gets, the weaker it gets? V'atanya, but we learned in a brisa the opposite. Shlosha calls mancha maskinin, there are 3 creatures that as long as they get older, gevura mitosefes ben, they actually get more mighty. Elohen, and they are as follows, the dog, the nachash v'chazir, the fish, and the snake, and the pig. And the Gemara says, Koach osofi hu dekamosif, ziare kolish, It's true that the strength of the animals, that actually gets stronger, but in terms of the venom, that actually gets weaker. And the Gemara continues, Shel bocher shokeya, so we said again, a young snake that the venom sinks. Lamai hilchasa, what practical difference does that make? The Tanya makes a difference, as we find in the following brisa. Chavis shenisgal, if you have a barrel of wine that's uncovered, aval b'shashasu mimena tisha, even though 9 people drank from it, velo meso, and they did not die, lo yishta mimena asiri, a 10th person should not drink from it because the venom might have sunk. Ma'isa haya shashasu mimenu tisha velo meso, there was an incident like this, where 9 people drank from it and they did not die, v'shasa asiri v'mes, and the 10th did drink and he died. Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, and Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Zehu shokeya, that's an example of shokeya where it sinks. V'chein avatiach, the same is true by a melon, some translate as a watermelon. Shenis gals, it's uncovered. Afal v'sha'achlu mimena tes b'nei adam, the idea is that an avatiach is very large, so you might eat from it and then you leave it over for later. So even though 9 people ate from it, v'lo meso, and they didn't die, lo yochal mimena asiri, a 10th person should not eat from it. Ma'isa haya, there was an incident like this, v'achlu mimena tisha, and 9 people ate from it, v'lo meso, they didn't die, v'achal asiri v'mes, and the 10th person ate and he died. And the Gemara says again, Amar Rebbe says on this, Zeu shokeya, that's an example of the sinking. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Mayim shenis galdu, if you have uncovered water, again, that is dangerous because a snake may have drunk from it, there might be venom in there. Hareza lo yishbechem b'Rosh Hashanah, you shouldn't pour that into Rosh Hashanah, it's a danger to the public. V'lo yarbitz b'henes habayis, you shouldn't use it. They would sprinkle it over the house to keep the dust of they had dirt floors, they didn't want the dust to rise. You shouldn't sprinkle that kind of water on the dirt floor to keep the dust down. V'lo yigval b'henes hatit, and you shouldn't use that kind of water to knead the tit, the cement with. V'lo yash you shouldn't give it to drink he shouldn't give it to his own animal, and he shouldn't give it to the animal of his friend. He shouldn't wash his face or his hands or his feet with that kind of water. Others say, in a place of the skin where there's an indentation, a crevice, usr, there it's usr, because the water will gather, it'll get into the bloodstream. But if there's no sirta, meaning if it's a smooth area, mutter, then it's permitted. The Gemara says, isn't the acherim the same as the Tanakama? The Tanakama also identified areas where there's indentations, crevices in the skin, like Ponav, Yodav, Araglav. The Gemara says, no, there's a difference between them. Gav Hayad veGav Haregel, for example, the back of the hand and the back of the foot, that would be a problem according to the Tanakama. Tanakama says Yodav, Ponav, Yodav, Araglav, it's not a problem according to the Acherim. And also Verumne Diape, that's the cheekbone area of the face, that's also a smooth area of the face. Again, that's Ponav, that would be included according to the Tanakama, would not be included according to the Acherim. And the Gemara continues, Amar Mar, the master said, Lo yashka mehen lo vehemto v'lo be'emas chaveru, he shouldn't give to drink to his animal, to his friend's animal. The Gemara says, V'atanya, but we learned in a braysa, V'al mashkeu levehemas atzmo, but he is allowed to give it to his own animal, so which one is it? And the Gemara says, Kitanya ahila shunner, there the braysa is talking about a cat. A cat is not damaged by snakes. The venom of a snake does not damage a cat. Rashi comments that cats even eat snakes, so you see it's not a problem. The Gemara says, if so, dechavre nami, well, if it's a cat, so why does it have to be his cat? He can give it to his friend's cat also. The Gemara says, no, dechavre kachish, because his friend's cat is going to become a little weaker. Gemara says, well, didei nami kachish, well, in that case, his cat will also become weaker. The issue with his own animals is an issue about tashchis, and so his animal, the same problem. The Gemara says, no, hadar bari, because the cats actually recover, they become healthy again. The Gemara says, dechavre nami hadar bari, well, his friend's cat will also become healthy again. The Gemara says, well, that's not necessarily good for the friend. Zimnin de boy zabune umafsid leimine. Sometimes the friend wants to sell the cat right now. He doesn't want it to get weak even temporarily, and therefore it's going to be a loss. That's why he shouldn't give it to his friend's cat. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Rabasi says that Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Shlosha Yeno, saying there are 3 kinds of wine, meaning to say 3 levels essentially of wine. Yayin nesech, you have wine that actually was poured as a libation to Avoda Zara. That is asr b'hana, that is forbidden. You're not allowed to get any benefit from it. Umetame tumah chamur bekazayis. If you have a kazayis of that wine, it's actually tameh, the strict kind of tumah. Rashi says what that means is tumah chamura masa, that's tumas masa, that's if you carry it, and v'oel, and also it has tumas oel, kemes, it's treated just like the dead, because iskish tekrovas avodas kochavim lemes, because the offerings of Avodah Zara are compared to the dead, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph.